Field reports from the strange. This is Obscura Bureau.
The photograph was wrong. Every time Evelyn touched it, the image changed. The scent of wet earth and something metallic clung to the paper. Her sister had been dead for 20 years, but in last night's picture, she was older. A low, wet scratching began inside the walls. The sound of earth being moved. The air in the room grew thick and cold, pressing down on her. And then she heard it. Not from the walls, but from the frame itself. A whispered plea for help. The grave had been empty for a week, and whatever took her sister was now speaking through the only thing it left behind. A police siren's red glow pulses against a suburban window pane, casting frantic shadows. Narrator. What do you do when you discover the person you cherished most was a total fabrication? When the woman you called mom for 3 decades had been inhabiting another woman's stolen identity? This is not speculation. This is the unraveling truth of Sarah Miller, and the proof was buried in her mother's coffin. Twice. The backstory begins on a sun-drenched suburban afternoon in Austin, Texas. Laughter echoed through the yard as the grill crackled with promise. But beneath that ordinary scene, something already felt heavy. Sarah Miller's childhood appeared flawless in every frame. A doting father, a charming Austin home, and her mother Eleanor, who was her entire world. Yet beneath that pristine surface, a different truth emerged. A truth with the faint, metallic scent of old secrets, and the unsettling quiet of a story yet untold. The baker of birthday cakes, the mender of scraped knees, the keeper of secrets. Eleanor was private, sure. She had no family photos, no stories of a life before Texas. She'd just smile, touch the small scar above her eyebrow, and say, "That life is gone, sweetheart. We're here now." Present day, Eleanor's bedroom. Night. She's ill, frail. Sarah gripped Eleanor's trembling hand. The dying woman's voice was a threadbare whisper. "When I'm gone," she rasped, the air thick with the scent of decay. "There's a box in the attic. The green one. Wait until after." Sarah's voice trembled as she pleaded, "Mom, please don't talk like that." Eleanor's voice dropped to a rasping whisper, heavy with finality. "Promise me," she insisted, her breath carrying the scent of old paper and medicine. "You look at it after," she emphasized, her cold fingers tightening. "You'll understand." The earth accepted Eleanor's coffin beneath a bruised sky, the lowering mechanism groaning like a wounded beast. Father Mike's words were swallowed by the damp air, which carried the scent of wet soil and decay. Sarah stood rigid, the cold seeping through her shoes, her fingers numbed where they clutched a single white rose. A collective stillness held the mourners, broken only by the distant, lonely cry of a crow. 1 week after the funeral, Sarah's grief was a physical weight in her chest. Then, she remembered the box. The attic was a sepulchre of dust and forgotten things, the air thick with the scent of mildew and old paper. And there it was, tucked behind the tinsel and ornaments. A small, military green lockbox. Sarah's trembling fingers finally pried open the rusted box, releasing a stale, earthy scent of decay. Inside lay a birth certificate for Janet Marie Covington, its paper yellowed and brittle to the touch. Beneath it, a matching social security card and a newspaper clipping from 1987 with the chilling headline, "Local woman missing, feared dead." At the very bottom, a photograph of 2 women, arms linked and laughing, their identical faces freezing the air in Sarah's lungs. Sarah's reality fractured completely. The document wasn't her mother's at all. A damp, metallic scent rose from the aged paper as her fingers trembled against it. Her breath hitched in the sudden, oppressive stillness of the room. The social security number on the document didn't match. It wasn't hers at all. Then Sarah saw the face on the missing persons poster. It was labeled Janet Covington, but that face, it was her mother Eleanor Miller's face, staring back from the paper. Sarah went pale, her breath catching in her throat as she turned to her father Mike. Mike stood frozen in his workshop, his world unraveling around him. The scent of old wood and rusting tools suddenly felt suffocating. I don't know," he whispered, the words catching in his throat. She never spoke of it. When we met in '88, she was completely alone. Said she wanted a fresh start. I loved her. I didn't push. The air in the room grew thick, heavy with the metallic scent of ozone. A damp, creeping chill settled into the floorboards as Sarah's voice cut through the stillness. "Sarah, Dad, this isn't a fresh start." Her next words were a raw, whispered accusation that clung to the air like a physical presence. This is a stolen life." Consumed by a fresh, paralyzing grief, Sarah transformed into the detective of her own family's disappearance. She retained a private investigator. The digital trail of breadcrumbs led them to a quiet, unassuming town in Ohio. There, Janet Covington had vanished into thin air. Her disappearance followed a final, bitter argument with her estranged sister, Rebecca. The fight left only questions hanging in the heavy air. The scent of ozone and damp earth now clung to the case, a town holding its breath, guarding a secret in its silence. The case went cold, a ghost in the files. Then Eleanor Miller appeared in Texas 6 months later, bearing a new name and a faint scar that didn't match Janet's photographs. But more chilling than the scar was the deep, unshakable terror she harbored toward anyone in a uniform. The private investigator found Rebecca, Sarah made the call that would shatter the quiet. The line crackled with static, then fell into an oppressive quiet. An older woman's voice, strained and brittle, finally broke through. "Janet." "Who?" she whispered, the name hanging in the thick air like a ghost. "My God, is that?" A pause, heavy with disbelief. "No. You sound like her, but you're not." Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with the weight of revelation. "I think my mother might have been Janet." Rebecca's voice broke as she confessed, the memory thick with regret. "We had a fight. A stupid fight over a man. She bolted from the house, and I never laid eyes on her again." Later, the police discovered her car abandoned by the riverbank. The interior reeked of iron and damp upholstery. Across the driver's seat, a dark, sticky smear was all that remained. They whispered she was likely gone forever. Then, Rebecca's voice cut through the static, each word landing with a cold, sharp clarity. Her confession was a whisper that seemed to leach the warmth from the very air. "There was another girl," Rebecca said, the audio crackling with age and dread. "Her best friend." Eleanor Shaw and Janet were inseparable, their resemblance so uncanny that people frequently confused one for the other. The air grew thick with the scent of damp earth and stale perfume after Janet inexplicably vanished. Then, Eleanor herself disappeared, leaving behind only the faint, lingering odor of ozone and a profound, unsettling stillness. The twin voids they left were not just absences, but a palpable, sticky dread that clung to the very walls of their home. Sarah's finger hovered over the photograph, then slowly traced the contours of the woman who was not Janet. The air in the room seemed to grow thin, carrying a faint, metallic scent like old pennies. Eleanor Shaw, the best friend, her look-alike. A realization, cold and absolute, began to seep into her bones. Sarah's investigator pressed further into the case. The blood found in Janet's vehicle was type A. That was Janet's own blood type. A sticky, metallic scent seemed to cling to every detail. But Eleanor Shaw's medical records from a childhood accident revealed she had type O blood. As Sarah pulled up the digital files, the sterile glow of the monitor cast long shadows across her face. Then came the driver's license photo of a young Eleanor Shaw. The resemblance was uncanny, a ghost from the past staring back through the digital veil. She bore an unsettling, altered resemblance to her mother. The puzzle's final pieces clicked into place, revealing a monstrous truth. The memory of the struggle returned, a metallic tang of iron in the air, the slick, sticky warmth underfoot. Two women, paralyzed by a primal dread, one clutching a grievous wound. Driven by a desperate, terrible opportunity, Sarah returned to the one piece of evidence she couldn't face, the lockbox. Her fingers, slick with cold sweat, fumbled with the latch, the metallic click echoing in the oppressive quiet. At the very bottom, beneath layers of forgotten documents, lay a single sheet of paper, folded impossibly small. The air grew heavy with the scent of old paper and dread as she reached for the letter. The note was in her mother's elegant handwriting, but the paper trembled in Sarah's unsteady grip. As she unfolded it, Eleanor's agonized voice seemed to whisper from the page itself. "My dearest Sarah," the voice began, soft and full of a profound, weary ache. "If you are reading this, I have failed to destroy it. A final, damning truth settled in the heavy air. And you have learned a terrible truth. I am not who you believe me to be. My name was Eleanor Shaw. Janet Covington was my heart, a sister, in every way but blood, and I killed her." The air reeked of damp earth and ozone as the storm lashed the old house. Every groan of the settling timbers felt like a whisper in the dark. That was the night everything shattered. Inside the vehicle, a bitter argument erupted between the two women, their voices sharp and venomous in the confined space by the river. The confrontation turned physical. A desperate, mumbled struggle, the scent of fear and river mud thick in the air. Suddenly, the passenger door flew open with a violent metallic groan. A figure tumbled out, striking the jagged river rocks below with a sickening, wet crunch. A primal scream tore through the night. She clutched the bleeding gash on her temple, her fingers coming away sticky and warm. The argument had turned violent. She lunged, the car door gave way, and she was gone. Now alone with the metallic scent of her own blood, panic tightened its grip. Her purse lay open on the bank, the ID card glinting in the moonlight. Then it seized me. A vile, cowardly thought that curdled in my gut. I could become her. I could vanish. So I pushed her into the river's black embrace. I took her name. I became the missing woman. I lived every day of my life with her ghost in me. Present day, Sarah is sobbing, the letter pressed to her chest. The mother she knew, the gentle, loving Eleanor, was a fiction. That performance wasn't to escape a mistake. It was to outrun a sin. The scar wasn't a relic of some past life. It was a fresh brand from the night Janet died. Every whispered lullaby, every tender kiss goodnight, had been a poisoned promise spoken by a murderer. And now, Sarah stands alone in a different, rain-slicked cemetery in Ohio. The headstone was simple, weathered. It read, "Janet Covington, beloved sister, friend, lost but not forgotten." Rebecca stood beside it, weeping. Sarah placed a single white rose on the grave. The damp earth seemed to drink in the gesture. With Rebecca's support and the new, damning evidence, Sarah petitioned the court. It was the only recourse she could think of. Her petition was granted. The body of Eleanor Shaw was ordered exhumed. She had the body cremated, then carried the ashes to Ohio. A small gathering waited there. Just Rebecca and a handful of old friends. The air in the room felt thick with the scent of damp wool and old wood smoke. No one spoke as she entered, their collective breath catching in unison. Sarah stepped forward with a simple urn, her voice a whisper that cut through the heavy air. This is for Janet, for the woman who lost her life, her name, and any future she might have had. And for Eleanor Shaw, the woman who was my mother, and who stole all of that from me. May you both finally find some peace. The urn was interred in a small plot beside Janet's grave. A second funeral in every meaningful sense. Whose ashes did Sarah bury that day? Was it the gentle, fragile soul who raised her, or the terrified killer who fled into the shadows? Sarah's mother was buried twice. Once for the woman she pretended to be, and once, finally, for the woman she killed to become her. The first funeral was a lie, a performance for neighbors who smelled the faint, metallic tang of something wrong beneath the flowers. The second was a secret, a quiet interment in soil that felt cold and greedy to the touch. A lifetime of love could not cleanse that single, violent act. It could only build a haunted monument of it. Sarah approaches the twin headstones as dusk settles, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. At the first grave, she whispers mundane details of her existence. The office, the commute, the hollow routine. Then she turns to the second, her voice breaking as she pleads for absolution into the gathering dark. The camera holds on the paired stones long after she departs, leaving only the whisper of dead leaves and unanswered questions. She is a daughter to a phantom, a stranger to the woman beneath the soil. Each dawn brings the same hollow question. Whose bones did she commit to the earth? The damp soil clings to her fingers like a guilty secret, carrying the scent of wet earth and decay. In the quiet, she hears only the drip of water from nearby stones. This mystery haunts her waking hours, a ghostly inheritance that offers no answers, only the cold certainty of something buried wrong. She lives suspended between two truths: a spectral parent she never knew, and a stranger's grave she tends with trembling hands.
If the report helped, subscribe and open the next case.